Previously in our narration of Magus Incognito's The Secret Doctrine of the Rosicrucians. We ended with, the world of soul is not eternal, but on the contrary appears and disappears according to the rhythm of the cosmic nights and days. Now, the second aphorism states, the flame is rekindled. The dark light once more bursts into flame throughout the form of the world soul, and the new universe begins. It also states, time begins. This is seen to be true because change has begun. Change is the essence of time, and time the measure of change. And a thing exists. This because the world soul is truly a thing, with all the characteristics of thingness. It can be defined and described in positive terms. It can be thought of logically and in terms of intellect, though perhaps not capable of being pictured in the imagination. Excuse me. Again, action begins. This because from the very inception of the germ in the cosmic egg, there is the manifestation of activity, motion, change. The world soul is in constant and uninterrupted activity from the moment of its faintest dawn until the moment of its expiring quiver. Again, the pairs of opposites spring into being. As all thingness is accompanied by the presence of pairs of opposites, the contrasting sets of qualities, it follows that from the first faint breath of the world spirit, differentiation begins, and the polarity of qualities exhibit themselves. Again, the world soul is born and awakens into manifestation. The world soul awakens into active manifestation from the very moment of its birth, finding within itself the impelling urge of the will to live and of expression. It proceeds at once, along the lines of elementary instinct, to prepare for manifestation of higher and more complex forms of life and action. Again, the first rays of the new cosmic day break over the horizon. With the coming of the world soul, the new cosmic day is indeed begun, and it proceeds without interruption until the shades of the cosmic night once more overtake it in cyclic sequence. The Rosicrucian teaching is that the world soul is not a soul lacking a body, but that on the contrary, it is clothed in the garments of the most tenuous and ethereal substance, a substance as much finer and more ethereal than the ether of space of the material scientists, as the latter is much finer and more ethereal than the hardest steel or granite. From this ethereal substance, the world soul weaves bodies for its manifestations, even the densest forms of matter, and even the tenuous bodily form of the highest forms of life, far removed from our comparatively gross earth plane. The Rosicrucians further hold that it is not correct to think of the world soul as having been created out of nothing by the eternal parent, and still less so think of it having been created from the substantial essence of the eternal parent by division, separation, or partition, such ideas being held to be logically impossible and fallacious. On the contrary, it is held that the world soul exists as an idea of the eternal parent, just as in a daydream, or a reverie, or a full dream, we may picture a thing as in being. Or in other terms, even the world soul exists merely as a picture in the infinite imagination of the eternal parent, and at the last is but a shadow of reality, and not reality itself. The world soul, at the dawn of the cosmic day, may be said to be like a dreamer freshly awakened from a deep sleep, and is striving to regain consciousness of himself. It does not know what it is, nor does it know that it is but an idea of the eternal parent. If it could express its thought in words, it would say that it has always been, but had been asleep before that moment. It feels within itself the urge toward expression and manifestation, along unconscious and instinctive lines, this urge being a part of its nature and character and implanted into it by the content of the idea of the eternal parent which brought it into being. Like the newborn babe, it struggles for breath and begins to move its limbs. And as it struggles and moves, there comes to it a response from all of its nature, and its active life begins. And here we leave the world soul for the moment, struggling for breath and striving to move its limbs, figuratively speaking, of course. Its future is related in succeeding aphorisms. Next, we will commence with part 4, the universal androgyny. In the secret doctrine of the Rosicrucians, we find the following third aphorism. The third aphorism. The one became two, the neuter became bisexual, male and female, the two in one evolved from the neuter, and the work of generation began.